We covered a lot and we changed a lot of names here. But what if we actually want to change the name on our own? So let's say that in the person component here, we actually also have another element, a normal input element, which is of type text, and that's it. Should be self-closing. Now, whenever we type something there, we want to use what we type here as a new name. Now, for that, we can listen to a special event onChange. OnChange will be fired whenever the value in this input changes. And here I then want to execute some method, which I need to pass down from my app.js file. We got that switch name handler, and I will leave it as it is and instead add a new handler. I'll name it name changed handler. I expect to get an event object here. We haven't used that before. But in there, I still want to change the state. Now, of course, theoretically, you would want to change the state or the name of the person for which we typed this. This is something we'll do later in the course once we learned how to correctly render a list of dynamic elements. So for now, I will always change the name of Manu here. So Max will stay Max, and Stephanie should keep her age of 26 maybe even, but Manu should change its name, no matter in which instance of this person component I type. Again, this is something we will fix later. So here I will get an event, and as you might know for JavaScript events, this event probably has a target. The target doesn't make for a good name value though, but the target should be the input into which we typed. So it should actually also have a value property, which is the value the user entered, and therefore this now makes for a good updated value for name. So event target value is what I want to assign as a new name for Manuel, again for the time being, no matter into which input of which component I typed. Name changed handler is my handler. Now I need to pass this to a component to be able to access it from there. And since I only can change Manu, I will only pass it to the Manu person, though we could pass it to any other, of course. Here I will simply name this changed and pass this name changed handler, following the same logic as for the click event. Inside the person, I can now access this changed property and simply call props changed here. Or not call it, don't add parentheses, but simply pass the reference to it. And keep in mind, this refers to the method we declared in app.js, this name changed handler. The event object will actually be passed to it automatically by React, like a normal JavaScript, where you also by default get access to the event object. With that, let's save this and let's see what happens. We got inputs below all components, but for most of them nothing happens if I type in them. For Manu though, you see with every keystroke the name updates. Manuel, whatever I want to type there. This is because we bound onChange to this prop changed, which holds a reference to the name changed handler. And we then use this default event object to extract the target, which is the input element, and then the value of the target, which is what we entered. This shows us actually two things. How we can dynamically update something, dynamically call an event and use the things we learned before, like passing down event references or method references, I should say. But it also shows us how we can handle inputs. Now, it would also be nice if we would see the current value of the name in the input right from the start. So we basically want to set up two-way binding. When we change it, we want to propagate that change so that we can update the state. But we also want to see the current state right from the start. To do this, I can set value equal to props name. This is the name after all. And now we have our own two-way binding set up. We listen to changes, call the changed method in the end, which refers to the name changed handler, which updates the state, and we pass down the state to the person with name and age, and we output the name as the value of the input. This now allows us to show that value right from the start. And here I actually get a warning. This warning theoretically makes sense because if you provide a value prop without an onChange handler here, you actually run into problems because you're binding the value to a property without allowing yourself to react to changes. Hence, you would lock your input down. I can show this if I remove onChange. Now you see we still see the values, but if I type there, nothing happens. I can't type because we're not handling changes. So we always overwrite whatever we try to type with the existing name prop. If I reintroduce onChange though, the error stays here, which is simply a false alarm. As you can clearly see, I can type because I am able to handle my changes, update my state, update my props, and hence reflect my changes in the input here too. So we got a working two-way binding and we're able to change that name dynamically now. Again, keep in mind, only for manual because we haven't set up the logic for the other inputs. Hence we can't type there because we can't update these names there. And that is probably why it's complaining here for these other inputs. For now, we can ignore this though. We will improve this once we have a better way of dynamically rendering a list of elements.